God waking you up in the middle of the night is not an accident, nor is it a random disturbance of your rest. It is intentional, precise, and purposeful. The hours between 3 and 5 in the morning are not ordinary hours. They are often moments when heaven chooses to intersect with your life in ways that the daylight cannot accommodate. When your eyes open suddenly, when sleep flees before any noise or fear disturbs you, that moment is an invitation from God. It is an invitation to step into alignment, to hear direction, and to receive revelation that cannot wait. This is a time when the spiritual realm is alert, when the unseen is active, and when divine influence can move ahead of the day's events before the distractions and pressures of life settle in. God does not wake you up to punish, to scare, or to confuse you. He wakes you up because He knows that certain instructions, insights, or alignments are best received in quiet and stillness. The night hours remove the clutter of daily life, the conversations, the obligations, the mental noise that can drown out subtle impressions. In the darkness, your spirit is more sensitive, your heart is more open, your mind is less divided. God uses these hours to communicate with precision because your capacity to receive is heightened. What is communicated in these moments often determines what unfolds in the visible realm later, even before you are fully aware of it. When God wakes you, it is often to position you before the day begins, to move you ahead of circumstances that could otherwise cause confusion, delay, or unnecessary struggle. Many people spend their days reacting to situations, trying to catch up with what has already happened, but God works differently. He moves before the moment manifests. He speaks before the event occurs. He instructs before the pressure arrives. Waking you up is His way of ensuring that you are already aligned before the day's challenges demand a response. It is preventative, strategic, and purposeful. By responding in those quiet hours, you step into a rhythm that allows God's time and His protection and His guidance to operate unhindered. Divine communication at these hours is often relational rather than informational. God is not merely giving you data to act upon, He is inviting partnership. He is speaking to a heart, not just a mind. That is why these awakenings are often accompanied by a sense of awareness, a stirring in the soul that feels different from ordinary wakefulness. You may not hear words audibly, but you feel direction, conviction, and clarity that cannot be ignored. These impressions are the language of heaven, designed to guide you when human reasoning and distraction are at a minimum. God does not speak louder than necessary. He speaks clearly when the environment is right to receive Him. When you awaken at these hours, the invitation is also a test of responsiveness. God watches not only what He reveals, but also how you respond. Immediate attention demonstrates faith, trust, and willingness to prioritize His direction over comfort, routine, or convenience. Delayed response allows hesitation, fear, or distraction to creep in, diluting clarity. Immediate engagement with the moment ensures that alignment is established before doubt, reasoning, or outside influence has a chance to intervene. This responsiveness is part of the obedience that strengthens the connection between revelation and results, between divine instruction and earthly outcome. God's awakening often precedes significant moments in life. Throughout Scripture, leaders and servants of God were roused early to receive insight, to intercede, or to prepare for destiny-altering decisions. Moses encountered God in the quiet of the wilderness. David sought direction early in the morning. Jesus withdrew before dawn to pray and receive instruction. These examples demonstrate that the spiritual realm favors those who are awake when heaven chooses to act, those who respond in the silence, and those who prioritize divine communication over sleep, comfort, or distraction. When you recognize that God waking you is purposeful, your perspective changes. Restlessness is no longer irritation. Anxiety is no longer a nuisance. It is a signal. The moment becomes an opportunity to step into alignment, to hear instruction, to intercede, to pray, or to position yourself for the day. These hours are a spiritual window, a time when heaven is more attentive, when unseen forces are active, and when divine favor is poised to be released, not in reaction to human effort, but in response to willingness to hear, to obey, and to engage with God before the world demands your attention. Silence is not emptiness. It is intentional space where clarity can take root. Most people assume that understanding comes from more information, more conversation, or more activity. But spiritual clarity often emerges from the removal of noise. When the world quiets down, the mind slows, and distractions fade, what remains becomes visible. God uses silence because it removes competition for attention. In the midst of noise, everything seems urgent and nothing stands out. In silence, priorities are revealed. What remains loudest when all else fades is often what God wants you to see, hear, or respond to. Spiritual clarity requires focus, and focus is difficult when the mind is crowded. During the day, thoughts collide, emotions react, and external demands constantly pull attention outward. Silence pulls awareness inward. It allows the mind and spirit to settle. When movement stops and external stimulation is removed, perception sharpens. God often waits for silence because clarity delivered in a noisy environment becomes distorted. Silence is the environment in which truth can be recognized without interference. Silence also strips away emotional exaggeration. Noise amplifies fear. Impatience and distraction. In quiet, emotions can be observed without distortion. Anxiety that thrived on constant stimulation diminishes. Desire that was influenced by comparison becomes clearer. Silence removes the ability to hide behind activity and forces awareness of the real state of the heart. God uses these moments to reveal what has been influencing decisions so that clarity can replace confusion and alignment can be established. Silence allows subtle impressions to become noticeable. Divine communication is not always loud. God speaks through impressions, convictions, and moments of stillness that are easily missed when the mind is overstimulated. When the world is quiet, subtle impressions rise to the surface. Thoughts, reminders, and nudges that were drowned out by distraction now have space to be recognized. Silence enhances sensitivity to these signals, sharpening discernment so that instruction can be received accurately. Stillness slows reaction and allows wisdom to function. Just as an image becomes clearer when motion stops, understanding becomes sharper when internal movement slows. Silence creates a pause between stimulus and response, a moment to assess, consider, and recognize truth. God often inserts silence into life not to delay, but to protect. Decisions made in a quiet, uncluttered environment are rarely rushed. They are deliberate, measured, and aligned. Silence also reveals what has been operating behind the scenes. External noise often masks internal influences, patterns, and habits. When the world quiets, these things surface. They are revealed not to condemn, but to inform. God uses silence to show the heart what has been shaping actions unconsciously so adjustments can be made before moving forward. This insight brings alignment because what is hidden becomes visible. Clarity gained in silence is not dependent on emotion or circumstance. Emotional reactions often fade, but understanding formed in quiet remains. God prefers to communicate in silence because it produces stable insight, enduring conviction, and reliable guidance. Silence reinforces awareness, confirms priorities, and allows the heart to recognize truth without distortion or interference. Silence is also where alignment with God is tested and strengthened. When distractions are removed, the heart is left exposed. This exposure allows for obedience, reflection, and attunement to divine direction. It cultivates patience, discipline, and humility because clarity often comes gradually. Waiting in silence sharpens sensitivity and teaches the value of attentiveness, allowing what is revealed to be properly understood and embraced. God uses silence to restore perspective. In quiet moments, priorities become obvious, distractions lose influence, and focus is regained. Decisions become more deliberate and the path forward clearer. Silence separates what is important from what merely demands attention, creating space for divine guidance to be recognized, internalized, and acted upon without distortion or competition. Night hours remove the illusion of control that daylight creates. During the day, movement, activity, and business give a sense that you are in command, as if effort alone determines outcomes. But in the night, when the world is still, visibility decreases, and external distractions fade. The reality of the unseen spiritual realm becomes more apparent. What is moving beyond your senses, the influences, pressures, and forces that shape your life, cannot be ignored in these quiet hours. God often uses this time to reveal what has been operating under the surface while the daylight distracted you, so that awareness precedes action and preparation can happen before the day demands a response. Darkness does not create spiritual activity, it exposes it. Restlessness, sudden clarity, persistent thoughts, or strong convictions often surface at night because they have been operating quietly in the background. These are signals, divine nudges, warnings, or insights that are more easily recognized when human noise is removed. The night functions as a lens that magnifies what has been subtle during the day, allowing you to perceive, influence, pressure, or guidance that might otherwise be missed. God allows this exposure not to overwhelm, but to inform, to prepare, and to position you correctly before events unfold. Unseen spiritual activity works subtly, often influencing thought, emotion, and decision before it manifests externally. During the day, these influences blend into routine, masked by business. At night, when routine pauses, their presence becomes noticeable. Patterns, motives, and priorities that were obscured by daily distraction are revealed. God uses the quiet to bring awareness so that you can act with discernment rather than react out of habit. The night uncovers not only resistance or challenges, but also opportunities, connections, and timing that require recognition before they can be leveraged. Scripture consistently associates night with alertness and revelation. Watchmen and leaders were stationed during night hours because visibility was limited and danger could move unnoticed. Similarly, spiritual resistance often works quietly, hoping to avoid detection. The night removes that cover. What has been hidden is exposed, so that necessary action, prayer, or alignment can occur before it is too late. Darkness amplifies perception, sharpening the senses to detect movement in the unseen realm that daylight often obscures. Unseen activity revealed at night is not always negative. God uses these hours to reveal His work, providing insight, guidance, and preparation. Dreams, impressions, and sudden understanding often arise in these hours because the mind is quieter and more receptive. By exposing both resistance and opportunity, the night equips you to respond with clarity. It creates an environment where intercession, reflection, and preparation can occur without the interference of distraction, allowing you to act from awareness rather than reaction. Night exposure also tests readiness and discipline. Awareness surfacing at these hours is an invitation to engagement. Avoidance through distraction, scrolling, or worry delays clarity in action. God allows unseen activity to emerge so that it can be addressed early, before it gains momentum or influences outcomes in ways that are difficult to redirect. Sensitivity and discernment grow through repeated recognition of these signals, training the heart to respond to divine guidance quickly and faithfully. The night also reveals dependency and priorities. When external noise fades, what the heart relies on becomes obvious. Habits, coping mechanisms, and attachments surface. This revelation is not condemnation, it is information. God uses the night to highlight where realignment is needed, where attention must shift, and where focus must be restored. Exposure of hidden influences allows for correction, preparation, and strengthened alignment. Understanding that night hours reveal unseen spiritual activity changes perspective. Restlessness becomes opportunity. Anxiety becomes awareness. Silence becomes a signal. These hours are not a nuisance, they are a window into reality where divine influence, spiritual preparation, and unseen guidance intersect to position you for the day, for decisions, and for purpose before external circumstances manifest and before the world demands your attention. Awareness gained at night allows response to be intentional, timely, and aligned with God's plan, ensuring that preparation precedes pressure and clarity precedes action, while the unseen realm works quietly behind the scenes to shape outcomes. Prayer before sunrise is not just a ritual, it is a strategic act that positions you to influence the unseen before the day even begins. When you pray in the early hours, you are not reacting to circumstances, you are shaping them. Most people spend the day responding to what has already happened, trying to adjust after events unfold. But prayer at dawn reaches into the spiritual realm ahead of time. It prepares the ground, aligns timing, and creates an atmosphere in which events, opportunities, and interactions are influenced before they manifest in the natural. Early prayer sets a rhythm for the day that favors clarity, direction, and protection. Timing is critical. Many outcomes are determined long before they appear. When prayer precedes action, it ensures alignment with God's will and timing. Decisions made without spiritual preparation often encounter unnecessary resistance, confusion, or missed opportunities. Praying before sunrise shifts these unseen factors, allowing you to move through the day with divine guidance. What might have been delayed, hindered, or blocked in the natural can be adjusted in the spiritual first, creating momentum that favors success and clarity. Prayer at this hour is often more focused because distractions are minimal. The world is still, the mind is less cluttered, and the heart is more receptive. You are not overwhelmed by noise, competing opinions, or constant demands. That quiet enhances concentration and sensitivity to God's voice. The instructions, convictions, or revelations you receive in this space carry clarity, weight, and precision. Early prayer ensures that what is received is not diluted by distraction or emotion, allowing you to act from understanding rather than reaction. This early communication also protects and stabilizes your day. Prayer places boundaries in the unseen, creating spiritual covering over decisions, interactions, and opportunities before challenges arise. Conflicts that could have grown stronger are softened. Opportunities that might have been missed are prepared. The absence of interference is often unnoticed, but it is evidence of divine intervention initiated through prayer. Early prayer works quietly, but effectively, shaping circumstances before they demand attention. Spiritual insight gained at this hour is often preventative. Problems are addressed before they become crises. Misalignment is corrected before it causes deviation. Prayer functions as a hedge, influencing outcomes before human intervention is necessary. It shifts not just external circumstances, but also internal alignment. Hearts, thoughts, and emotions are steadied. Confidence grows, stress decreases, and focus strengthens. Early prayer changes the way you engage with the world because you are already aligned with the source of wisdom and direction. Dawn prayer also cultivates consistency and discipline. When you commit to seeking God before the day begins, you create a pattern of dependence rather than reaction. Faith becomes habitual, not conditional. Stability in spiritual practice translates into stability in life outcomes. Alignment through prayer is reinforced over time, producing discernment, clarity, and resilience. Repeated early engagement trains the heart to recognize God's voice and respond accurately, even when circumstances are challenging or uncertain. Prayer at sunrise aligns priorities and perspective. It helps you see the day as an assignment, not an obstacle. Challenges are reframed, decisions are measured, and interactions are approached with intentionality rather than reaction. Early prayer strengthens the mind, heart, and spirit, ensuring that each step taken is informed by awareness and purpose. It establishes a foundation upon which everything else is built, and it influences outcomes before the day attempts to define them on its own. Unseen outcomes are shifted through prayer because it connects the natural with the spiritual. Actions that seem ordinary are infused with divine alignment. Opportunities unfold more smoothly, resistance is mitigated, and timing is orchestrated. Early prayer ensures that you are not merely responding to events, but moving in concert with God's design. It is both defensive and proactive, shaping circumstances while preparing you to act decisively. Immediate obedience is powerful because it positions you in alignment before circumstances have a chance to create confusion or delay. When God gives direction, hesitation opens the door for doubt, fear, and competing opinions to influence your heart. Waiting allows convenience, comfort, and reasoning to negotiate with obedience. But when you respond immediately, clarity is preserved, trust is demonstrated, and alignment with God's plan is secured before anything else interferes. Immediate action signals faith, not because the outcome is visible, but because trust outweighs understanding in that moment. Obedience is relational before it is transactional. God is not primarily interested in your performance or results. He desires your responsiveness and your willingness to act on His instruction. Immediate obedience demonstrates a heart that is sensitive to His voice, receptive to His timing, and willing to follow without delay. This responsiveness opens access to favor, protection, and guidance that delayed obedience often misses. The act of moving when called aligns you with purpose, establishes rhythm, and creates momentum before external pressures arrive. Delay introduces unnecessary complexity. The longer you hesitate, the more opportunities there are for distraction, fear, and competing advice to cloud your judgment. Immediate obedience preserves simplicity and precision. It keeps the instruction pure and unfiltered, allowing action to reflect trust rather than negotiation. God honors this responsiveness because it shows that His voice carries authority over your own reasoning, timing, or comfort. Alignment comes when action precedes deliberation, not after it. Immediate obedience also produces peace. When instruction is received but not acted upon, tension builds within the heart. You know what to do, but hesitation creates internal conflict. Acting immediately resolves this tension because obedience is expressed through movement. Peace follows action even when outcomes are uncertain because the heart recognizes that it has aligned with the source of wisdom and authority. Delay keeps the mind restless. Immediate obedience restores harmony between intention and action. Obedience preserves timing. Many challenges arise not from wrong direction, but from acting late in a process that requires early alignment. Immediate response ensures that you are moving in sync with God's timing. Resistance often comes later, but when action precedes it, obstacles lose their power to delay or disrupt progress. Immediate obedience positions you ahead of interference, allowing momentum to carry forward with less struggle and greater effectiveness. Immediate obedience also trains discernment. When you consistently respond without delay, you learn to recognize the patterns of God's guidance, the tone of conviction, and the moments of prompting. Sensitivity increases, allowing you to act with confidence in future instructions. Delay dulls this perception because the window for clarity narrows as distraction and noise increase. A responsive heart becomes a refined instrument for alignment. Obedience without delay communicates readiness. It signals that you are prepared to follow, capable of trusting, and willing to act without needing full explanation. This posture invites God to entrust more responsibility, revelation, and opportunities because trust has already been demonstrated. Immediate action becomes a proof of faithfulness, establishing credibility in the unseen and positioning you for further instruction. Immediate obedience also strengthens identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who moves when called, not someone who hesitates or negotiates. That identity shapes future decisions. Alignment becomes ingrained, instinctive, and reliable. Your character is reinforced through action, not contemplation. You stop relying on circumstances for motivation because responsiveness becomes a defining trait. Immediate obedience creates momentum that compounds over time. Each act reinforces trust, sharpens discernment, and strengthens alignment. Delay interrupts this compounding, making response reactive rather than proactive. Obedience builds rhythm, delay disrupts it. Immediate movement maintains flow, allowing divine influence to integrate seamlessly with action and timing. Obedience may feel costly because it challenges comfort and routine. Moving immediately often requires sacrifice, disruption, or stepping into the unknown. But that cost is minimal compared to the benefits of alignment, clarity, and access to favor. God multiplies the reward of prompt obedience because it demonstrates trust, humility, and readiness to participate in His plan without negotiation. Delay